Hi, I am Allie Hybers, and I want to share a little bit about how I work, what FDN is, and I'll show you the lab work that I love to use to uncover what's going on in someone's body. So, FDN stands for Functional Diagnostic Nutrition. And I am not a doctor. I won't diagnose anything or treat anything specifically. But what I do is I run specific functional lab work on my clients. And from there, we see what shows up in the lab work with hormones, with minerals, with metals, like heavy metals. We look at the gut, so we get a really good picture of what's going on inside, so we can address your symptoms of what you're feeling and get to the root cause of why you're feeling that way. So I got into FDM because I was very frustrated with my own journey. I was a health and wellness coach for 10 years and I was doing all the right things with exercise and nutrition. And then it was like when I hit 39 to 40, my body started working against me. I was getting bloated, gaining weight. I was very dizzy all the time. I would stand up and like have to hold on to something. I was so tired. I would sometimes have to set an alarm for 10 minutes just to close my eyes for a few minutes, knowing I had to wake up in 10 minutes. And just moody. Like my husband never knew who he was going to come home to after work. Like, is this going to be happy Ellie or is she going to snap? And I just didn't feel like me. I was losing motivation for things that I was like always a go-getter before. I was just like when you know something's off, you know something's off. And when I reached out to my doctor, I was basically told if you're not trying to get pregnant or you have regular cycles, you don't need to look at your hormones or look into things further. This is just getting older. This is perimenopause. And I was not ready to accept that as a reason because I knew there was things that I can do. So I took matters into my own hands, and that's when I found FDN. So what I do is, like I said, run lab work on my clients. I get the labs back and then I interpret it for the client and we go over everything and I correlate it with how they're feeling. So if we start working together, you're going to get some intake forms and it's a lifestyle and medical history. It's a whole metabolic chaos scorecard so I can find out what's been happening, how you're feeling, and then I correlate the lab work with how you're feeling and what came up. And then I create a protocol for you. It's a 90-day protocol and it is custom to what came up in your labs. So it's specifically what you need to start healing your body. And with our you'll hear me say metabolic chaos. That is stressors that show up in the body. And stress can come from a lot of different things. So think of a bucket. That's your body. Stress comes in from things like stress from work, family stress, having a baby, hormone shifts like perimenopause can be a stressor. Going like being in pain, having any kind of pain, that's a stressor. Food sensitivities can be a stressor. Toxins, environmental toxins. So all of these stressors are adding up in our body and eventually they start overflowing. And that's when we start feeling really, really crappy. So it is my job to find what those stressors are within the body and I create a protocol to help reduce them. And our protocol will consist of diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction techniques, and supplements as well. So those five things is what's included in the protocol. And I work with you on a 90-day protocol. I coach you. I do check-ins weekly, and we do a monthly Zoom call to go through things. How are things going? We do a check-in. What do you need help with? Because healing journeys are like this. They go up and down and up and down. And so I help navigate the process so that you stick with it and you follow through because I want to make this a lifestyle for you. And my goal after working together with you for the 90 days is that after you know what you have to do to maintain it. You're going to learn a lot about your body and what your body needs to be able to live and thrive and keep making progress on your own health journey. So right now I'm going to show you what the labs look like. I'll show you my labs so you can get a little peek into what kind of lab work that I do. Okay. So this one here is the GI map. This is my GI map. It is a stool sample. It gets sent to your host. You do all the samples and then you just mail them back in. It's very simple. and it goes right to the lab. I don't get your sample, so don't worry, I won't be looking at your poop, but it goes right to the lab and then I get your test results. So, right off the top, I see that I had H. pylori, which is something about 50% of people actually have. A lot of people are asymptomatic though, and they're not feeling anything. But there's a lot of people walking around with a lot of gut issues and um, acid reflux, burning in their stomach, bloatedness, and they're just popping antacids, things like that, when it's really H. pylori. And antacids actually make things a lot worse because it lowers your stomach acid. H. pylori does not like high stomach acid, so it lowers your stomach acid as well. But that also creates digestion issues because without stomach acid, you're actually creating a whole host of things going on with your digestion. So I work to eradicate that. And then also, I had very low good bacteria. So this shows a good balance of good bacteria and bad bacteria. So this is the good guys. I was extremely low. We want these arrows nice up in like the green, and I was low in all of these and very low in these. And if you think of these as like the trees in the forest, this here, the phyla, is the actual forest. So we want that way higher. Mine was off the charts low. And this could be because I was an antibiotics kid. I had a lot of ear infections as a child, and my mom, she didn't know better, so she just kept giving me antibiotics. So that can really deplete the gut. So I had very low good bacteria, which we want a good balance of good and bad, kind of like a bouquet of flowers. So we don't want any of them sticking up, like no overgrowth. So we don't want any too low because this good bacteria is gut protection. It also helps with digestion and detoxification, and a lot of the functions in our body start with the gut, and we need that good bacteria. So I had a lot of gut work to do. And keep in mind, I was a health and fitness coach for 10 years prior to taking this test. So I was eating really well. And I still had all of these things show up. I also had a parasite up here, a test for parasites as well. So I had a nice little critter living in my body, which you can pick them up very easily, lots of different ways. But having this low bacteria, low good bacteria, and I also had low stomach acid, like it made my body a very good host for a parasite to stick in and to show up in. So I was like a nice little host for this parasite because my gut bacteria was so low and I was having all these other gut issues that it was like, oh, let's set up shop here. We like this environment. So I had to work on getting rid of that. As well, these are the intestinal markers, and it shows how you're digesting fat. So if there's fat in your stool, it'll show up here, meaning you're not breaking down your fats very well. Elastase, it shows your stomach acid and how much you have. Mine was very low. So I was having trouble breaking down my food. Beta glucuronidase points to a detox marker and how well you're detoxing your estrogen. And if this is high, you could be very estrogen dominant because it's recycling the estrogen and old hormones in your body. Also points to if you have any blood in your stool, it shows your immune system response and if it's stressed out and fighting something like acutely, or if it's chronically stressed out for so long, then it can be low like mine was. So my immune system was very stressed out. So it was down here low. It shows any inflammation as well in the gut with calprotectin. And then any overgrowth, so this would be like the bad guys, the bad bacteria show up here, and each different bacteria can point to different things that are going on as well. So a lot of times when you have really low good bacteria, you actually have an overgrowth of the bad guys because they start like coming in and taking over that real estate in your gut. If the good guys are low, the bad guys come in and be like, okay, we'll have an overgrowth here. I did not, luckily, so these none of these showed up as high. It also tests for fungi and yeast, things like Candida, and viruses like Epstein-Barr. So the GI map shows a ton of amazing information, and I get so much insight into people's health by looking at the GI map and what's going on in the gut. And then we have hormone testing. This is just one snapshot of the actual Dutch test. I think it's 19 pages long. So we get so much information from this one test. And this is just a urine sample. And you do it throughout the day. And this gives you a really great look of your sex hormones. So we're looking at your progesterone, your estradiol, your androgen hormones, so like your testosterone and your DHEA and what they're doing. It also looks at your cortisol pattern, and this one is a big one for energy and to see how your cortisol is acting throughout the day. If you're not sleeping well, this can definitely affect that. And cortisol is a big one too for blood sugar, for weight loss. So it's really good to know what your cortisol is doing, along with your other hormones as well. And I don't prescribe BHRT, that's like bioidentical hormones. So I won't give you bioidentical hormones, but there is so much we can do with different herbs and supplements and lifestyle changes to support our hormones before you have to go maybe that route of going with actual taking hormones. But there's so much we can do with knowing this and doing supplements and different herbs and things like that. Also, this shows our metabolites. So it doesn't just show our hormones, it shows how we're actually using the hormones in our body and the different pathways that it takes. So I know it sounds kind of gibberish right now, but it shows so much great information that can really help us and help someone heal a lot of things. So that's just one little snapshot of it here. It also shows melatonin too, melatonin production like throughout night. So a lot of sleep issues and energy issues, we can get a lot of good insight here. And then we have the mineral test, which I should have started this presentation with the mineral test because minerals are our foundation of everything. It is very hard to heal our hormones and detox right and work on adrenals and all the things if our minerals are out of balance because every metabolic function in our body involves minerals to be able to do that function. For example, our thyroid, it needs zinc, it needs selenium, it needs iodine. I was like, come to me. It needs iodine. So it needs those things to be able to perform its functions of what a thyroid does. So by just looking at this, my calcium was super high, and that wasn't from taking calcium, it was from stress over time. And you can form like what I had, it was called a calcium shell. So if you think of like the white film on pipes when something calcifies, that's what high calcium does to our cells in our body. And by having it highlight that, it's showing in the tissue in my hair, because this is a hair test, that means that the calcium in my body is being shuttled into my tissues and my tendons and my joints and my hair instead of to my bones and my teeth where the calcium should be. So people with high calcium like that, they're going to have a tendency of feeling very achy because you're having that calcification on your cells and it's in your joints instead of in your bones. So that makes sense, right? Of feeling that. You can also feel very emotionally flat when you have high calcium like that. You have very sluggish metabolism, very sluggish adrenals and thyroid, which I do. So it relates to a lot of different symptoms. And then my magnesium was really high, but it was actually at a loss in my body. So if magnesium is showing high like that in your hair, it means your body's not absorbing magnesium. And I was taking magnesium. So for some reason, my body was not absorbing that magnesium I was taking. So I had a lot of mineral balancing work I needed to do. Sodium was high, but I believe that was from my water softener. I have a water softener, and my potassium was so low, which points to brain fog and lack of like exercise recovery. There's so many different things. Potassium's involved in like every enzyme function in the body. So mine was so low. So I had a lot of work to do. These are our four macro minerals: calcium, magnesium, sodium, and potassium. So when we work on balancing those, the other ones start to come into play. I also had something that's called copper deficiency or dysregulation, sorry, where it likes to hide in your liver and in your brain. And that can cause a lot of personality changes, anxiety, panic attacks, things like that, depression. So I had that going on. And I was also, this points to me being a slow oxidizer. So being a slow or fast oxidizer tells you how you oxidize food best and what foods work better for you. So it's really insightful. Sorry, really insightful for so many things. And the ratio of the minerals together tells a lot about our adrenals. It points to, where is it? Sorry. What our adrenals are doing. If we're parasympathetic or sympathetic? So is our body in fight or flight all the time or the opposite? What's our thyroid functioning like? Do we have hidden copper? Do we have sluggish adrenals? It also points to blood sugar and if we have any gut infections. So it's a really great place to start is with this test. So I like to run all three together. So it gives a really good window into what's going on inside the body because when something shows up on one lab, I like to look at the other labs to kind of figure out why. So, for example, maybe your cortisol is just crashed and you're exhausted all day. Well, I can look at your gut, and if you have a parasite there or H. pylori or some kind of pathogen going on, I could be like, okay, no wonder, because that takes so much energy from the body and causes a lot of stress in the body that it can tank your cortisol. So, that's why I like doing all three in the Total Wellness Transformation Package. So if this interests you at all, send me a message and I can go through pricing with you and what the pricing is for the total wellness package because there is a discount when you do bundle it with all three. And the package includes 4 months working with me because for the first month, we're getting you set up with your labs. I send you a Kickstart protocol to start working on things while we're waiting for the labs. And then we have the 90-day protocol after that. And it also includes weekly check-ins with me through message, through we use Practice Better as well as any coaching material, nutritional stuff that you need. I supply that as well, and monthly check-ins with Zoom. So if this interests you, just send a reply back. I would love to chat with you more.